YouTube. Today what I want to talk about is practicing at home. There's my shot here. It's also my deadly finger guns. Because thing is, a lot of us are trapped at home without the workshops, without the classes, without the training halls and other places where we would normally go for instruction. You may not even be able to get to a gun range. Here in Ohio, a lot of public land is off limits. You know, when I was in Wyoming, I could just go out to the Forest Service and you know, shoot all I want if I found the right spot. Here in Ohio, that is not the case. How do you continue training? How do you keep up or build those physical skills? How do you make the use of this time? Those of you who, unlike myself, are not having to keep an old house from falling apart faster than they can put it back together. Especially since I was contacted about offering a online workshop coming up, I wanted to make sure that the people would be able to participate, because I don't want to just teach theory. I want to teach pragmatic skills for performers who actually need to be able to do things, right? Playable actions, that's my big thing. And so when we're talking about firearms training, I don't want to just talk about intellectually, like how does a cartridge work and what is the history and what are the actions. I want people to come away with a better ability to look like they know what they're doing. And that requires some muscle memory. It requires the ability to try things out. Now, not everybody has prop firearms at home. Not everybody owns Fight Designer LLC and has hundreds of replica firearms within an arm's reach here. I'm a little spoiled that way. But I want to be able to teach people. You can train with pretty much anything. I mean, you can practice firearms handling with a cordless drill. You know, you can practice your muzzle discipline, your trigger discipline. I mean, there's no trigger guard, but you can still index it, things like that. You can practice your stances and things like that. Banana works fine, but you might need a couple of them to get through an hour and a half workshop, because it might start getting a little squished. Just saying. I'd rather eat this than eat lead. Pew, 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 pew! And if you have an Airsoft or something, awesome. You know, these are great because you can practice your magazine reloads. You can practice different ways of, you know, brashing the slide. You can different ways of releasing it. You can work on your nice clean trigger pull. Not that matters much for what we do, because most of the time we're not firing it. I love these gas blowbacks, by the way. Humorex gas blowbacks with trademarks. Haven't taken all the orange out of this one, but get the 17 and the 19 and different finishes. So satisfying. If you don't have something that lets you figure out, oh, this is the safety, where's the mag release, where's the slide release, if you don't have a way to practice those skills, grab a couple of sticks and tape them together. But for anybody who wants to be able to do a little bit more detailed talk through, I'm going to go ahead and share a PDF down below here. For anybody who's taken this workshop, I'll link to this video, but anybody just in general who wants to do some training on your own. What I've done is I've just tried to make as best I can sort of a scale pattern for you to cut things out of cardboard and glue them together. Because I figure most people at this point, you're having things delivered. You might have some Amazon Prime boxes or some Girl Scout cookie boxes or whatever. You know, corrugated cardboard is the best. Again, not everybody has piles of Girl Scout cookie crates. My wife runs the troop, so we've got a lot of those too. But whatever your source of cardboard, cardboard's cheap and easy to come by. So if you use this pattern, cut them out, slap them together, and just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort. How neat it ends up looking is entirely up to you and how much time you've got and what kind of tools you've got. Craft knives, scissors, whatever, how careful you want to be. Okay, so what I've done now is I've printed out my PDF so that what I end up with is some of these. I cut them out and I traced them on the cardboard. And so you've got the full-size ones, and I'm just doing rough cuts now because I can neaten them up later. It's up to you if you want to be really neat, cutting them out and then putting them together and have less finishing work, or if you want to slap them together and then like shave it off when you're done. I tend to be a slap it together and shave it off later thing myself. But and then we got some with the magazine well cut out. Those are going to go in the middle. Now, obviously, it's up to you how detailed you want to be. You don't really even need a cutout for the trigger guard or even like a trigger. You could just cut this into a big circle if you want. I don't care. And if you want to get more detailed and have like, you know, no rear sight on the middle ones, there's a little notch, and no front sight on the sides, I don't care. Whatever. You know, knock yourself out. Have fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to slap these together with just some Elmer's glue, you know, some school glue, so that we've got a rough shape. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 middle pieces, and then 2 full pieces that go on the outer sides. So that when you put them together, you've got a pocket in here for the magazine, and it just needs to be tight enough to stay. So I've gone ahead and just done 5 of these cutouts of the magazine rather than 6. It's because I think I'd rather have it be something that I can pull out without too much struggle than have it be a super flush, super tight fit. So I just want it to be able to push in there. And I'll probably need to shave that down a little more, but that gives you the idea that this should be able to go in there and pull out. So this is kind of my experiment, is to see if I can create something that has roughly the same profile and size as a dummy gun. In this case, this is one of the Denix Beretta 92s that I can use through a workshop, where I can also talk through what some of the different controls are, and talk through a grip and stance and things like that. So I'm just going to slap some glue on these and stack a book on top so that it stays nice and flat. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with just the middle ones so that I still have this part open. And that way when I'm done, I can shave these off a little bit more easily to make that a nice opening, and then I'll cap it off. So now that I've assembled it, this is kind of what it looks like. It has maybe gotten squished a little bit more just to the, it's by weighting it down while it was being glued, it ended up a little narrower than I originally thought. So this is not the full width of a Beretta 92, it's a little skinnier, but that's okay. That's not the important part. But what it does is, especially when you glue these printouts on it, it lets someone see kind of where the parts are. Okay, that's where the mag release is. I can see that now. That's the slide lock. This is the safety. We can talk about these things. These are the slide serrations, so I know that I can either grab it here or I can grab it here. The slide doesn't move, obviously, but we can talk about it. And this is entirely just like optional frivolous stuff, but because I like gimmicks, we also have a magazine. So we can also, let me zoom in here. So we can also, it doesn't use the release, it just slides in and out. But we can also, if we need to, we can practice doing some of those actions without having anything else in hand, but just practicing those proprioceptive skills. And the hope is that this will also let me kind of talk people through stance and grip and different tactical transitions and drawing, retention, all that stuff. The stuff that'll help actors look like they know what they're doing, instead of having like this big gap up here and like cup and saucer stuff and this thing, and yeah, less of that in the world, please. So if this is something you're interested in, it took me all of an hour on Photoshop to just get the scale right, because I had to futz around with things a while, put it back together in a PDF, and maybe also an hour to cut out all the parts and glue it, but then of course, several hours of glue drying and waiting for that to dry. Other things that help, neatening it up after you're done. If you've got a nice sharp knife, that can work. If you've got a bandsaw, that can work. If you've got a file, that can conceivably work if it's glued tightly enough. The other thing I thought helped was burnishing it. So just finding something like a Sharpie or a pencil or a dowel. That's what I got handy. A light stand. But something round and smooth. And then just going over the edges like this a little bit. Kind of burnish it. Now I did that also in the magwell before I put the outer layers on, and that made it a lot smoother on there to be able to do things like sliding that magazine in and out. Now going from my pattern, you may need to make some adjustments. You might need to make the rear part of the magwell a little bigger, not the front part because it's going to be too fragile if it gets any skinnier, or just make the magazine a little bit narrower, and that's fine too. Just whatever gets that a decent fit, if you even want that. There are some parts that are going to be a little too thin to have much structural integrity when done this way, such as the trigger and the trigger guard. So make the trigger guard as beefy as you need it to be, because I'm not too worried about that. And you don't even have to cut out the trigger if you don't want to. Why is that? Because most of the time, I don't want your finger going in there anyway, right? And frankly, I think having a partially cut out trigger or a not at all cut out trigger guard might just be the perfect way to train people to properly index instead of trying to stick their finger inside there all the time in an unsafe way, right? So frankly, if you want to leave that solid, awesome. Not a bad idea, go for it. So now you've got a completely inert, safe, gimmicky, cheap cardboard training weapon, which you could maybe use this for disarms. I don't know how long it would last if you started doing leverage stuff on it. But if nothing else, it'll let you run through some drills and just try and build up some of that muscle memory. And maybe not feel quite as silly as if you were doing the same thing with a banana.